Hello everyone, welcome to Echo, and thank you for joining us for another One Piece video. Currently in the world of One Piece, a crew called the Crossgill has been forming, consisting of Buggy, Crocodile and Mihawk, and these three great pirates have come together with only one goal: to hunt down the sailors that started to chase them again. Because there are so many Marines in the world, they had this great idea to weaken the Marine organization easily. They put a bounty on each sailor based on their position within the organization. So in today's video we're going to talk about the bounties that Buggy and his companions have placed on each Marine, how it could be based on the value of each sailor, and how these bounties will cause the Marines overall to weaken. But before we dive into the video, if you're new to the channel, or even if you've been around for a bunch of episodes, we'd be absolutely honored if you'd leave us a like or even subscribe, and maybe leave us a comment letting us know what you thought of the video. It really helps us out and motivates us to make more content. And if you'd like to help us out in a bigger way, consider sharing the video with a friend. Without further ado, let's get into the video. So friends, within the Marines there are several positions, but the most important ones are of course the Fleet Admiral, the Admirals and the Vice Admirals, which means that they're the ones that present the greatest danger within the Marines to anyone else in the world. Now we do not know yet how the Pirates and the Cross Guild are classifying each level of the Marines and the wanted posters, but what we do see is that there seem to be more stars on with certain sailors than others, and it could be that the higher the value of the Marine, the more stars we're gonna see on their bounty poster. The maximum amount of stars that are awarded is also unknown, but it's likely to be around maybe 5 or 6, which means that the higher amounts of stars are used in the bounties for Admirals, and may even have one for the Fleet Admiral now, because the Admirals and even the Fleet Admiral are the most important Marines in the organization. They are the symbol for the Marines of the whole world, and they are also the most powerful characters, and also have a great responsibility to maintain peace. Currently the Fleet Admiral is Akainu, and he's commanded the entire Marines, possessing the absolute order above all, and a kind who only follows the orders of the world government, because it is an organization above the Marines. But within the Marine organization itself, Akainu's orders are absolute, as well as those as the three Admirals, being Admiral Fujitora, Kizaru and Ryukugu, and they possess the ability to give orders to any other Marines, and only take orders from Akainu himself. So for these Marines we would expect there to be a very large bounty on their heads, and we would expect maybe around 5 stars each. Now just below the Admirals we would also have the Vice Admirals. Now the Vice Admirals are very competent sailors who have shown their worth through their lives and throughout their careers, and many of them have had the opportunity to become an admiral, as well as the current ones who were previously a vice admiral during the past, and even now in the present many of them have shown to be of extreme value to the Marines. Just take for example Monkey D. Gar, where in his prime he was regarded as the strongest Marine that ever existed, because he was one of the only Marines to ever confront Goldie Roger, and in these meetings between the Pirate King and this Vice Admiral, Garp and Roger always end in the fight in a draw, because they couldn't beat each other without losing their lives during these confrontations. In the past, Garp has even been offered the position of Admiral several times, but because of his pride, and because he didn't want to be a pawn of the world government, Garp has refused every time. Not to mention Shuru, who is a vice admiral, and during the past and even nowadays is still feared because of her achievements, as she has been able to arrest so many pirates because of her great intelligence to form strategies, that she has even received the title of Great Staff, the Vice Admiralty. Although not having the same level of strength as an admiral, it is still quite clear that they are very competent Marines and have been able to accomplish many things throughout their careers. So many of them would probably have a 4-star bound, still being very valuable to bounty hunters or even civilians who wish to obtain a bounty from these individuals. Next, within the Marines we have the Rear Admirals, which may not be as well-known Marines as some of the others, but they are still very loyal to their positions. Some of the better-known Rear Admirals would be Kobe, who is of course a great friend from Luffy's in the past, as well as Hina, who's appeared several times during very specific arcs, because they may not be as important as say Vice Admirals and Admirals, and they may only have a bounty of say about 3 stars, which would be an average bounty compared to other levels of Marines, or even pirates for that matter. Beyond the levels of the Admirals, we also have Commodores, Captains, Commanders, Lieutenant Commanders, and other lower positions that may only warrant about 1 to 2 stars now, depending on the strength and level of fame that each of these Marines have. Even the weakest within the Marines could still be captured by civilians, bounty hunters, or even lower pirates, thus gaining a small amount of berries and increasing their popularity a little bit. But the main principle of this whole scheme and this whole hunt for Marines is to destroy and destabilize their organization, and so it is the Cross Guild who is responsible for placing the bounties on every Marine. And this came about because of the events of the Revelry arc. At this yearly meeting, it was decided to abolish the Shizubukai, or the Warlords of the Sea, because their members were causing a lot of trouble in the world, especially Crocodile and Doflamingo, who had each tried to take a kingdom for themselves, and with the dissolution of the warlord system their members began to be hunted again, recovering their old bounties, and the Marines were showed going after these pirates again. However, 3 of these warlords did not accept this, and of course we're talking about Buggy, Crocodile, and Mihawk, who ended up uniting to finish off the Marines who dared to confront them. And not only that, they didn't want to just wait for the Marines to come to them to try and capture them, they decided that the hunted would become the hunters. So Buggy then puts a large bounty on all the various Marines in order to make the sailors a target. Now the Marines have long hunted pirates and put bounties on their heads to motivate people in order to capture them, but now the Marines have become the hunted with a large bounty on their heads, and by doing this Buggy has managed to weaken the Marines much faster and limited the number of existing Marines available to do any mission around the world. Because if you think about it, pirates can pretty much exist indefinitely and infinitely, because new ones are going to rise every age, but Marines are only those who really want to go into the organization and only get the title after they've been trained. And if people in the world knew that Marines were being hunted, that there was no safety in joining the organization, hardly anyone would end up joining the Marines, because the Marines would gradually lose people who were captured and of course delivered to the pirates for their bounties, and slowly but surely, gradually, the Marines would thin out their ranks and could get to a place where they would cease to exist, leaving only the most powerful of Marines who are in charge, like Akainu, the Admirals and Vice Admirals, really taking away most of the power from the Marine organization. In total, this would make the world of One Piece a totally different place, because now the pirates would have the upper hand, making it nearly impossible for the Marines to be able to do anything about it. Furthermore, the Marines wouldn't even be able to protect the world government in case of a major attack, something that may happen very soon, since Sabo and the rest of the revolutionaries supposedly got involved in a scuffle during the revelry and have been accused of killing King Cobra and Furtari. If we add in the fact that there are now bounties on Marines, the revolutionaries may use this opportunity to go after the world government to destroy them, because they're not going to have as many sailors at their disposal. So that just leaves the mysterious SSG, or Special Science Group, which is currently one of the only 3 pillars left in the world of One Piece, and they would be the last line of defense that would be able to fight alongside the world government and perhaps prevent them from succumbing to the revolutionaries should they try to start a major fight. So going back to the Cross Guild, it's possible that this organization may be the most powerful one in the world, because they're led by 3 former warlords of the sea, being Buggy the Clown, Hawkeye, Mihawk, and Crocodile, King of the Desert. Now we don't know how this alliance works yet, but apparently it looks like Buggy is the leader, or at least their public face, and it may be this very organization that Buggy was able to put together that allowed him to become a Yonko, because Crocodile and Mihawk don't necessarily have a crew. I mean, we know that Mihawk pretty much sails by himself on his kind of coffin boat, but Buggy has men that follow his orders and already has a crew of some pretty powerful members, so it wouldn't take much convincing to bring Crocodile and Mihawk into the fold, but currently not much else is known about how this group was formed or even the reasons that led them to accept Buggy's proposal, which makes this alliance really curious. Even Zoro was quite surprised when he found out about this alliance through a poster, and is surprised by the fact that Mihawk had even joined Buggy, because Zoro trained with Mihawk over the time skin, and you could never imagine how Mihawk, who was a very lonely character and kind of solitary in his own right and also very protective about himself, is just very curious for such a solitary individual to put himself and make himself a part of a group. And then if we talk about Crocodile, this is a very arrogant and ambitious pirate where we've seen that he follows only his own desires, and no matter what he has to sacrifice to achieve his goals, he's gonna do it. So allying with Buggy and these other people may not have been a very easy thing to do. However, we do know that Crocodile had been impelled down and that incarceration could have brought him a change of mind, but somehow and maybe against all odds, Buggy was able to talk them into joining forces to defeat the Marines, and Buggy was also able to convince the newspaper, although let's be honest, I don't think it took a lot of convincing for Big News Morgan, because we know how much he loves drama and loves a good story. But nevertheless, Morgan still published the Admirals wanted posters all over the world in his newspaper, and just this fact goes to really reinforce the idea of how convincing Buggy can be to get people to do what he wants, which may have been the very skill that allowed him to make his crew all the more powerful with the alliance of Crocodile and Mihawk. But of course, this is only beginning of the goals of these three pirates, and they still may have an even bigger destination or goal that involves the Marines, or even the total destruction of the Marines and world government. So as we head into this final saga of One Piece, we see that the world government is getting to be at a point of a great disadvantage, and they are slowly losing credibility throughout the world, and are also suffering more attacks from the revolutionaries factor and the creation of the Cross Guild as well, and the world government is no longer going to be able to attract or recruit sailors to help them with the Marines, and the Marine is going to find itself in its own problems, meaning that the SSG, this special science group that is laid in the shadows, may be the sole responsible party for ensuring the safety of the world government and the Celestial Dragons. These new alliances that are emerging are also increasingly a triggering future, where a great conflict between Marines, pirates and the world government could stand to be the greatest of battles never before seen in the world of One Piece, and in fact being much more destructive than the one we saw in Marineford. And obviously the Cross Guild is going to be one of the organization responsible for starting this great battle, so hopefully soon we'll get to learn much more about this alliance between Buggy, Crocodile and Mihawk, how dangerous they can be and what their final and main goal is. But for now, my friends, I'd love to know what you think about it. First off, why do you think Mihawk joined? I mean, we could see Crocodile joining in with Buggy and maybe having some kind of backstory plan in the long term, but Mihawk is a very different individual, being very solitary. What do you think maybe brought him into the fold next? What do you think about our ideas about the star ranking system for the bounties? I mean, we're just going with some logic here and trying to think about how it would work, but do you have a different idea about it? And if you do, let us know in the comments below. But with all that said, my friends, I want to thank you all so much for watching the video all the way up to the very end. Be sure you comment on any themes or ideas that you'd like to see in future videos, and also, since you made it this far, give us a like or hit that red subscribe button before you head out to take on the rest of your day. I hope to see you all in our next video, and let's keep sailing this giant sea together. Take care.